It's kind of wild when you think about it. We live in a world that's basically magic. We can fly across the planet in a day, we can hold all of human knowledge in the palm of our hand, we're even sending robots to other planets. But there's this huge, strange, and honestly pretty dangerous paradox at the heart of it all. It's this massive, glaring gap between our power over the world out there and our control over the world in here.
So, here's what we're going to do in this explainer. We're going to really pull this paradox apart. First, we'll look at just how godlike our powers really are. Then we'll get into the hidden costs of all this progress. We'll ask that big question, is just simplifying our lives the answer? Before, turning to what might be the real solution, the journey inward. And finally, we'll zero in on the one power that might matter more than any other, the will. And we'll uncover the only real way to build it.
To really get a handle on this, let's try a little thought experiment. Just imagine, for a second, someone from an ancient civilization, like, say, an ancient Greek, was suddenly dropped right into the middle of our world today. What do you think they would see?
I mean, at first, they'd be completely blown away, right? They'd see us as a race of sorcerers, of actual demigods. Think about it. Flying metal machines in the sky, talking to people across the ocean instantly, summoning light with the flick of a finger. To them, it would be nothing short of powerful, unbelievable magic. But after that initial shock wore off, our visitor would start to look a little closer, and they'd see the truth that's laid out right here. We can travel to the moon, but we're totally clueless about what's going on in our own unconscious minds. We can command electricity, but we can't handle a surge of our own anger or fear. We can flood the entire planet with sounds and pictures, but we can't even manage our own basic impulses. We're basically gods on the outside and infants on the inside. So let's see how this plays out, because this imbalance, it's not just some abstract philosophical idea. No, it has real, tangible effects that you and I feel every single day. We are paying a seriously heavy price for all of our progress. Yeah, sure, our lives are richer in a lot of ways, but they've also become unbelievably complicated and just exhausting. The pace of everything just keeps getting faster and faster. The demands on our time and our energy are completely relentless, and is it any wonder that so many of us just feel this constant, low-grade frustration and discouragement? Eventually, something's got to give. Under all that pressure, our inner resilience, our ability to just cope, it starts to crumble. Just think about your own life for a second. Be honest. Does this feeling of being constantly rushed, of being pulled in a million different directions at once, does that sound familiar? For most of us, yeah, it really does. That feeling is the personal cost of the paradox we're talking about.
So the big question is, what do we do about it? Well, one really common idea is to try and fix the external part of the problem. To just simplify our lives.
And this is not a new idea, not by a long shot. For centuries, you've had thinkers like Rousseau and Thoreau telling everyone to reject all the complexity of modern life and just get back to nature, to a simpler way of being. And you see it everywhere today, right? From minimalism to people doing digital detoxes. But here's the dilemma. On the one hand, simplifying absolutely has its benefits. It can help us push back against that frantic modern pace, get rid of stuff we don't need, and maybe reconnect with something real. But let's be honest, for most of us, there's a hard limit. We have families, we have jobs, we have responsibilities that tie us to this complicated world. We can't just up and walk away into the woods.
And this really gets to the heart of the matter. Our phones, the internet, the speed of modern life, none of these things are inherently evil. The problem isn't the tools themselves, the problem is that we've let them control us because we lack the inner strength to manage them with any kind of wisdom.
So this brings us to the only real solution left. If simplifying our outer world can only take us so far, then we don't really have a choice. We have to strengthen our inner world. The only true path forward is to finally begin that journey inward.
It's a pretty simple equation when you think about it. If you're going to wield immense external power, you need immense internal power to match it. It's the only way. The only way to avoid being destroyed by our own amazing creations is to develop the inner skills, the self-control, the wisdom, the clarity, to master them, instead of letting them master us.
And let's be really clear about what's at stake here. This isn't just about feeling a little less stressed out or being a bit more productive. The argument here is that this is about the sanity and maybe even the actual survival of our entire species. The same focus and intensity we use to conquer the outer world, we have to turn that inward now.
Okay, so develop our inner powers. That sounds great, but it's also pretty vague, right? Where in the world do you even begin? Well, the answer is actually very clear. There is one foundational, fundamental power that comes before everything else.
And that power is the will.
And I don't just mean willpower like resisting one more piece of cake. I mean the will as the central, directing force of your entire being. It's the captain of your inner ship.
So why is it so important? Well, it comes down to two big reasons. First, your will is directly plugged into the absolute core of who you are, your deepest sense of I. It's where your identity lives. And second, it's the engine. The will is the part of you that decides, okay, we're doing this, gathers up all your other abilities to make it happen, and, this is the crucial part, keeps you going when things get tough.
So, it seems like the most important thing we can do is develop our will. Which brings us to the next logical and maybe most important question of all, how? How do we actually train this fundamental inner muscle?
Yep, this is the key question. This is what everything we've talked about has been leading to. We get the what, this crazy paradox. We get the why, our own sanity and survival. But all of that is useless without the how. And here's where it gets really, really interesting. The answer is not what you probably think it is. It's not about reading 100 books on philosophy or psychology about the will. In fact, trying to just think your way to a stronger will, well, that usually just leads to more confusion, not less.
The real path forward is to stop theorizing and start experiencing. We have to discover the will not as some abstract idea in a book, but as a living, breathing reality inside of us, right? You don't learn how to swim by reading a textbook on buoyancy. You learn by getting in the water. It's the exact same thing with the will. The training starts with your direct personal experience of it.
And that's exactly where we're going to leave it. Not with a neat little answer, but with a big question for you to take with you. Forget everything you've ever read about it. Forget all the theories. Just for a moment, right now, turn your attention inward and ask yourself, what is my direct experience of my own will? That feeling, right there, that's where the real work begins.